supplementing with iron on its own may not be fixing the iron problem, because I literally hear of so many people who have been supplementing for years and their iron is still extremely low. But it may also be causing some other issues around the body, particularly to do with the gut microbiome and creating a negative iron loop system in the gut. But more on that in a moment. At the end of it, the unfortunate thing about our modern medical system, apart from the fact that our GPs, they're great people, but they just don't study nutrition. And if they do, they'll understand this. They don't study nutrition. So what they're told by the drug companies is, if you're in low iron, supplement with iron. But that doesn't resolve the issue. You need to rebalance the iron and create a system that is able to digest it, absorb it, and then utilize it in your body, which requires lots of other nutrients. Hence why I have a couple of videos specifically on iron for you to have a look at to understand it. And I'll guarantee, once you understood it like I'm presenting to you right now, you will know much, much more than your GP, your doctor, and even your specialist. They're decades behind on the research, and the research clearly shows how to improve your iron, right, and supplement and do all these other things to rebalance the iron at the same time. Now, if you're iron deficient, there are obviously, the main way that we measure it is using ferritin. And the ferritin levels should be as high as 70 up to 300. That's optimal range. Unfortunately, if you're below 15, some of the doctors will say, oh, that's okay, that's normal. Well, no, that's low iron normal. And I've had people contact me continually with my other videos that I've got on iron and how to increase the iron concentration in your blood. And they've said, my level is 4. I've been supplementing for years now and it's not doing any. And of course, they've also said, thank you. The perspective you've given has changed the way I do it totally. So my message is, you can't just supplement with iron and not understand the process. And when you know this, you will know so much more than anyone else out there. So the critical thing here is, with iron, there are 3 or 4 or 5 major forms of iron. Now, iron is called Fe, ferrous, in scientific language. And so what you've got here is ferrous sulfate is the main one, gluconate and fumarate. Now, gluconate is absorbed a little bit better, but they all have their problems. And it starts in the stomach. So when you absorb iron, the critical thing, when you eat iron, the critical thing is for you to be able to, first of all, digest it, break it down so it's available in your food, and prepare it in the stomach so that it can be absorbed in your small intestine. Now, this only occurs when you've got an acid stomach. You have to have an acid stomach. And I reiterate this so many times in my other videos, but I've been saying this for 30 years when I've been talking about gut health. My primary research area for the last 20, 30 years has been gut health and healthy aging. And it all comes down initially to the stomach having the right pH to be able to digest the minerals like iron and zinc and copper and all the other things as well. And so we need a really acid stomach. And unfortunately, a lot of people don't have an acid stomach because of drugs, because of stress, because of overexertion of exercise, a whole raft of factors in there. We're not talking about drugs. I'm talking pharmaceutical drugs. But what we want to achieve here is a strong acid, a pH around 2. And people often ask me, well, how do I know if I've got strong acid? Well, usually you will have good digestion and you'll eat something and it goes down quickly. By the way, your pH of your stomach, your acid level of your stomach declines with age. So if you're up to 45 or 50 years of age already, you're probably digesting worse, you're finding it harder to eat meat and a whole raft of other things. That's the first indicator. But if you have digestive troubles around the stomach and around this area here, then it may be that you don't have a strong acid, a low enough pH, around about 2 is the number you want to achieve. And how you can enhance this, and I've mentioned this in the other videos, watch them, because it will give you this broad understanding that, again, nobody else knows. Ascorbic acid, vitamin C. Vinegar and hydrochloric acid you can get as a supplement, hydrochloric betaine. And vinegar has been one of those recommended supplements over hundreds and hundreds of years, perhaps even thousands of years. And the reason, because first of all, it alters the pH of the stomach to help digest iron. In the old days, the doctors would have said, go home, eat some spinach, eat some greens, and have some orange juice. Why? Because orange juice, ascorbic acid, vitamin C, has an acid. It increases the acid of the stomach, which makes it more digestible. So we need those. More information on that in my other video. But coming back here, once you've passed through the stomach, it goes into the small intestine, where it is absorbed or passed on. And unfortunately, our gut, our small intestine, doesn't absorb much iron. In fact, only about 10%, if you're lucky, of the iron in your food, in your meals, in your drink, and as a supplement is absorbed. So 10%. The vast majority of it passes through. Now, if it's in just the iron form, as in a supplement, then that 90% can go and cause lots and lots of problems throughout the gut and as a result inside the body. So first of all, we've got the 10% that does go through, it gets into the lining, and it's carried through with some really effective carrier molecules, literally. It gets into the blood, and then it goes into your hemoglobin, and that's one of the signs of really low blood is pale skin. So if you have low hemoglobin, you're not carrying the oxygen, it's not giving it the red color, you're literally not getting rid of that pallid, pale look. And then you've got ferritin. This is the main one that is measured, and that literally is an iron store. When the ferritin level goes up, it says your body's store. It's locked away in lots of places around your body. When the ferritin level goes up, it says your body stores are going up. That's why you wanted to get it to 70 or above. And then your transferrin is another one they sometimes measure, and you can look at all of them, but the main one here is ferritin. Transferrin is, as it said, it moves it around the body. So you've got these, and you want to increase that. That's the ideal scenario, but only 10% is absorbed. And of course, unless you watch this video and the other videos and you get some insight how to increase that. Now the 90%, this is where the problem begins. The 90%, particularly of the supplements, goes to, first of all, create gut dysbiosis. Excess iron is great for the nasty pathogenic microorganisms in the gut, and it's not good for your good ones. You know, the good ones like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, they decline dramatically every time you're taking the supplement, and that 90% not being absorbed is going in there and literally destroying your gut microbiome. Now, for the last 20 years, you've been told, fix up your gut, take the probiotics, do the fiber, do the K-fiber, do all those other bits and pieces. Absolutely essential. But at the same time, if you're taking the supplements, you're poisoning them. And if you're taking more supplements, you're poisoning them more, which, by the way, sets up a vicious cycle of then not being able to absorb the iron again, even further. So it creates this vicious cycle. So we want to look after our gut, which is why I have one specifically on the right bacteria to increase iron and how to look after your gut to do with iron. Now, watch that in conjunction with this and the other iron videos to get an understanding. So it decreases lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, and it increases E. coli, salmonella, and shigella, the iron hogging bacteria. So they hog the bacteria so your body can't get it and can't use it. And as a result of that, it's being wasted. You poop it out and you're feeding the nasty ones. Now, typically, the pathogenic bacteria in your gut and in your systems are iron loving. So your body has set up a mechanism to lower that iron. So if it detects high iron or something that's indicating bacteria, then it actually causes your body to stop absorbing iron. This is where we're going to go to now. So we've got 90% of it going in here causing gut-related problems, which come back up and cause more gut-related problems, a vicious cycle, and as a result, low iron. Now, this situation here with these nasty pathogenic bacteria then leads to inflammation, something in particular called interleukin-6, which is a major indicator, interestingly enough, of low iron because it's indicating inflammation. And what happens is these bacteria, the nasty ones, another one is called Helicobacter in the stomach. Helicobacter pylori also loves iron. So every time you're supplementing with iron, you're feeding the Helicobacter, which is why you want to balance it. So we've got this. Now, typically, this inflammation is an indicator of some form of infection, and your body's trying to protect itself. So if your body literally detects high iron, it says, okay, I want to get down. And if it detects inflammation, which is a reaction usually to an infection of some sort, whether it's in the gut or in the blood or in the body somewhere, then it wants to lower that level as much as possible. And it wants to get it down so that it doesn't feed those toxic bacteria floating in your blood and in your gut and in your tissues and so on. And to do that, what it does, it releases, your liver detects the inflammation and detects the excessive iron, and it says, I'm going to release this fantastic hormone called hepcidin. So hepcidin, and this is the feature of what I'm going to be describing to you now, all about this molecule called hepcidin. And it's produced in the liver, and whether it's high iron or inflammation, hepcidin is produced more and more in the liver. So more iron, more inflammation, more hepcidin. Now, hepcidin goes down to the gut and starts to block the absorption of iron. So if it's detecting inflammation in your system, if it's detecting any form of inflammation, by the way, in your system, or it's detecting infection in your system indirectly through the inflammation, then it blocks the iron absorption. This is where we have a bit of a problem, because when you increase your iron, it increases the hepcidin, and then as a result decreases absorption and increases gut issues, which creates this vicious cycle. Now, also, what's really important here to understand the hepcidin link. And if you can understand that, you can work around ways to improve your iron absorption just by the timing of when you take the supplements and how hepcidin works. So the first thing is, as soon as you take iron, within 1 to 24 hours, and now if you're talking about an IV drip, it's 24 hours to a week, okay, that it's going to turn around and say, stop absorbing iron. And that's why IV drips have their own problems associated with it. Why? We're going in a much softer, easier process using common sense and really good science. And so what happens when the hepcidin increases, it takes about 1 to 24 hours when you take the iron supplement or the inflammation to trigger a response and say, okay, increase the hepcidin, and as a result of that, it starts to literally lower the absorption of iron in the small intestine. So we've got this mechanism here. What we want to do is try and trick it. So 1 to 24 hours, which is why one of the first things your GP should be recommending to you is to have your iron supplement every second day. So the hepcidin's gone up and it's gone down. The second day, not the next day, but the one after, so day 1, 3, 5, for example, you have the iron supplement. And that way you're going to guarantee a much better absorption of it, because it's going to be lower hepcidin. More little bits of trivia that will help absorption in a minute. So we've got all of that situation going on here. The critical thing then is, how do we what increases hepcidin and what decreases it as well? We know iron does, so in this case we've got a couple of things here that increase it. Iron, we know, increases hepcidin. We know inflammation, so whether it's inflammation coming from a bacteria or a fungal infection or a viral infection, which is why literally your iron drops when you've got an infection. Stress can cause it, chronic diseases, for example, again, if you've got diabetes or metabolic syndrome or you've got cancer, any form of chronic disease is literally also going to increase hepcidin, because it's thinking that you've got some bacteria infection. Whether you have or not, the mechanism in the body of inflammation is the same. And so we've got with chronic diseases, obesity increases hepcidin, very low. Now, we can alter some of these to a degree. We can manage our stress. We can manage our iron based on what you're learning here today. Chronic disease, well, okay, time to start reversing your chronic illness. Yes, you can. If you have metabolic syndrome, you have cardiovascular risk factors, you can reverse them through diet and lifestyle factors, which is what you want to do now, not when you actually have the heart attack, such as a recent occurrence of an acquaintance of mine. And he's going, well, now what can I do after he's had that heart attack? Let's act, become proactive in all of this. And so we've got a very low calorie diet. So if you're really trying to lose weight, this may be increasing your hepcidin because it's indicating stress. Now, we're not talking about fasting here, where you would go on a not eat for 18 hours or 16 hours and have some food. We're talking people on a low calorie diet, a really extremely low calorie diet for a week on end or even longer. What we want to do is keep the food going, healthy food going in. Best way to lose weight. Watch my videos on that too. Common sense and really good science. So coming back here, very low calorie diet and other things in our diet that create inflammation. And the research shows sugar and highly processed foods are a factor in hepcidin. So start moving away. You want to increase your iron absorption, get rid of those foods as well. Then an interesting one is physical activity. The more physical activity you do, the greater the hepcidin, because it's actually reading little bits of inflammation in your body as a result of the stress of the exercise. And it's saying, okay, in that case, decrease the iron absorption, increase the hepcidin, decrease the iron absorption. And it begins about 1 hour after your exercise. Now, if you're a chronic exerciser, in other words, you're an elite athlete and you train lots of hours a day, it's really important to understand that you're having a long-term impact on your iron, which is why you need to focus on this even more than other people out there. Now, there are other conditions which alter iron absorption, but at the end of the day, in sport, you can manage it. And it comes down to 1 hour at increased slight, 3 hours or so, it's at its peak. So trying to have something, a supplement, or even a meal 3 hours later and get iron absorbed through it is not going to work. 6 to 12 hours, it's at its baseline again. So what you're after here, the very simplest thing, is have it before you exercise. If you're going to supplement, which is great, or have an iron-rich meal, great, have it before the exercise. Because during that up to 3 hours after, it's very hard, increase your hepcidin, lower iron absorption, it's just going to be wasted, and it's then going to cause more problems with the pathogenic bacteria over here. Moving on. So at least 12 hours after exercise, which is again coming back to the fact that all the indicators are showing every second day, at least 12 hours after exercise. And the final one here is chronological factors, time over the day. We seem to have a low hepcidin in the morning and it increases over the day. So over a 24-hour period, it's going to go up and then it goes back down again. So the first time, if you're trying to increase your iron, again, another little hint, it's saying, make sure you have your iron supplements and your iron-rich meals first thing in the morning. And that then physical activity before activity. It's all falling in place, isn't it? And remember, have it every second morning before you exercise. That's the ideal scenario to decrease the hepcidin and increase the iron absorption in your body. On the other side, there are foods and other things can literally lower hepcidin. And it starts off with vitamin C. A lot of people have been telling you about vitamin C, but they haven't really told you the reasons. One, it increases the stomach acid, which makes it much easier to convert the iron into a form that your body can absorb. But just as importantly, it stops the inflammation in the gut. And thirdly, as a result of that and other factors, it lowers the hepcidin. As a result, you absorb more iron. Now, the amount is 200 to 2,000 milligrams per day. Vitamin C is extremely safe and has 1,001 other benefits. So if you're looking at improving your overall health, up your vitamin C levels. Vitamin D3 shows that regular daily doses of 4,000 international units of vitamin D3, that's the form that's available to us. Now, we can go out and get sunlight, which is absolutely fantastic. We need that, but it works in a slightly other way when it comes down to hepcidin and lowering it. So vitamin D3 as a supplement, and go out and get it in the sun. You'll see my other videos on the power of sunlight It's not just vitamin D. It has, again, dozens of benefits. Polyphenol-rich foods. These are your things like your turmeric and curcumin, quercetin, which you get in apples and you get in onions, and you get lots of foods. Luteolin, all of these have been shown to effectively lower hepcidin. And luteolin you find in celery and parsley, a few of those green type foods. Foods that have been shown to lower hepcidin include garlic and cruciferous. Cruciferous are your green, your broccolis, your Brussels sprouts. I used to hate them as a kid. I absolutely hated them, but now I love them, especially when they're cooked in some delicious olive oil mixes and so on. Also cauliflower, they're the good ones. Now, in addition to that, you can use probiotics in fixing the gut, because the gut communicates with the body in lots of other ways, and it helps lower hepcidin. So probiotics, Akkermansia, which have been shown to be effective. Now, they're not widely used as probiotics at the moment because they're very difficult to do that way. But another one, Faecalibacteria duncani, Lactobacillus plantarum 299V. I really do hope you've seen my other videos on iron, because I've talked about this particular Lactobacillus plantarum 299V, and that it's many, 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 many times more effective than any of the other probiotics. Now, you want lots of different probiotics anyway, but make sure you get this one without any doubt whatsoever. Lactobacillus rhamnosus, Bifidobacter longum, and infantis have also been shown to be effective. And again, I'm going to emphasize lactoferrin. Now, you're probably saying, what do you mean emphasize? Well, I've already done a couple of videos on this, and there'll be another one specifically on lactoferrin. It is by far the single best strategy to increase your iron content. How's that? You like it? It is by far the single best, most important, easiest to adapt, and again, has 101 other benefits around the body, lactoferrin. So make sure you're getting a daily supplement of lactoferrin. Then the question comes, with all that information, and the great thing is you can review those other videos, and it puts all of this into context. And the aim then is to increase iron. How do you do it? What's the regime? And it starts off very simply, 10 to 30 milligrams of iron in the morning, every second day. Every second day, not every day, remember? We've discussed why. So every second day you have 10 to 30 milligrams, no more, because that actually sets up a greater release of the hepcidin, and you get that reversing effect that I've told you a couple of times. You have it early in the morning because it's absorbed. Iron is absorbed better in the morning. There's lower hepcidin, and before exercise and before food. Food will interfere with it as well. So what you want to do is have that. Along with that, you can have some orange juice. Make sure it's orange juice, not orange fruit juice drink. Pure 100% orange juice. And again, I have a video just on orange juice and juices to show you that they have lots of benefits out there. A lot of people say, oh, they got sugar. No, the sugar is dealt with differently when it comes from a food than it is when it's extracted from sugar. So have orange juice on a regular basis. If you're a mum out there or a dad, your kids, get them on orange juice. It's a great food for them. So have the orange juice, and along with that, 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Consumed any time of the day, but probably best in the morning along with the orange juice anyway. Your body will use it. It needs it. It's anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, has lots of benefits, metabolic, reducing your risk of various cancers. There's a whole huge body of evidence, thousands and thousands of studies on the benefits of vitamin C. So make sure you're upping the dose. Then we've got the Lactobacillus plantarum 299V, supplement with that, lactoferrin, and 4,000 international units of vitamin D3. All of that can be done at the same time. You can also spread these out if you want, but these ones definitely that, and probably these all at the same time is probably best. There is no research which brought all of these together and trialed it. So that's why I've brought all of the research together and said this is what shows that work individually. And this gives you literally a 2 to 3 or 4 times multiplier effect of being able to absorb iron. Check out those other videos to get the background. And then when it comes to breakfast, at least an hour or more, make sure your breakfast is low calcium. Oh no, not low calcium. I've got to have my milk. I'm sorry, folks. First of all, milk is an absolute crappy food. Let's get serious on that, okay? Great for growing calves into a cow in 6 months or a year and putting on a huge amount of weight, but not growing the brain. Their brain doesn't change. Ours does. It needs real foods. So coming back to it, calcium is a major blocker, if you watch my other video, a major blocker of iron. So when you've had your iron up here, you don't want it for at least a couple of hours after. Now you'll see they've got in some of the breakfast foods, of course, they've got added calcium and added iron. Calcium is going to block the iron, and they're going to block it. So that's why you take the iron on its own, give it a chance to get down through the stomach. When it's a liquid, it won't take long. It'll half an hour, absolute max. Then it's in the small intestine where it starts to get absorbed and work. Then when it's there, you can start to have the rest of the food for the day. And the breakfast, breakfast at least an hour after, and make sure it's nutrient rich with all these polyphenols in it. Now, thrown onto that, there's a whole heap of other foods that can really benefit iron absorption, and I cover that in another video. Have a look at the videos I have up already. There's 4 of them currently, and there's another 2 or 3 coming to put this picture together so that you know more than anybody else out there on how to increase your iron. Share this with your friends. Make sure you tick the boxes and subscribe. If you like this information, subscribe. And if you've got any questions, fire away.